It's finally here. Version 3 PCB TANGO2. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. As you know, I was a very early adopter of the TANGO2. I was very excited to get this, and I have loved it. It's changed the FPV game for me. Nice, small, compact, can take it wherever I want to go. Now, the great thing is it's supposed to happen this week. Looks like it probably isn't going to happen till last week unless they drop this before the weekend. But this baby's supposed to be getting a power upgrade, because now that I had put the V3 PCB in here and the module bay, we're going to supposedly get at least 500 milliwatts of power, because this has the V2 Micro TX components built into it, which must be something special because they've been able to do a lot of stuff with it very fast. And in the future, we probably will get some more power. So there's a few videos out there already about how to do this modification and stuff. This is going to be quick. I'll show you some step-by-step stuff. A couple little gotchas at the beginning here for people. I had grip tape on here that they sold. That's out the window. I had to rip that stuff off. There's just no saving that. So I've done my best to try to clean up some of the sticky mess. There's a few scratches that are on there, so that is gone. The other thing, when it comes to putting in your gimbals, they do drop in and kind of slide into place, which is easy, but the biggest problem is going to be that scroll wheel. Getting that scroll wheel lined up back in there was the trickiest part that I had. So keep an eye out for that, because it goes in and kind of sits, but then it's got to come down and roll and click. So that was the trickiest part that I had. The next trickiest thing is going to be the little shoulder switches up here. These they kind of go in there in a funky fashion, and I noticed that once I got my case all back together, I actually didn't have them in all the way correctly, but I was able to just press down on them and they went back into place, and they're working fine. So this has the current latest version of CROSSFIRE on it, which I did have to go in and rip out CROSSFIRE and hit the bind button on my receivers. I don't know why. That kind of sucked. Luckily, I'm really only flying 2 or 3 quads right now because of the whole DJI FPV thing. So it wasn't a big deal for me. It worked out fine. So I'll go ahead and just kind of talk you through what I have done when it gets to the end, installing the module bay. I kind of just did it because I was so ready to get it over with. I just kind of slapped it on there, and it was kind of self-explanatory. Really, the whole thing is self-explanatory, but here you go. I'll show you this stuff, and we'll see you guys here hopefully in another couple days when we get some more power on this baby. So we'll talk to you later. Little slow-mo action here of all the parts that come with this. Here you can see the module bay expansion parts. There's 2 little screws in there somewhere that either I didn't get or I lost somehow, so make sure you keep an eye out for those. I just used something regular. But here's the V3 PCB in all of its glory. Wi-Fi, the Micro 2 electronics. So it comes with the 2 top rocker switches on top already. First thing you do is just kind of rip off those back hand pads, undo the 6 screws, and that'll pull that off, give you an opportunity to clean stuff up. This is the old battery with the old dual lock. You get a new piece of that to keep that on there. Unplug the battery, unplug your speaker wire, eject your SD card. You don't get any extra Kapton tape, so if you have some of that laying around, or if you want to pick some of that up before you do your mod, maybe go ahead and do that. I didn't use any on mine. Hopefully I won't have any issues, but not a big deal. So there's like 10 or 12 screws that you have to undo to go ahead and separate everything. And you can see I'm pointing out the connectors for that to connect the boards actually flip up. They don't pull out or slide out. They rotate up, and then you stick in your new connectors and you will close that. So once you get to this point, then you're going to disconnect your antenna. The antenna is held in by like this rubber connector that's pretty nice, actually, the way it holds it in there. So pop off that ITX and you can separate your shells. Now we got the new hardware getting ready to go in, and then you can see here I'm kind of messing around with these switches, and the gimbals pull right out of the old board and they literally will just pop right back in to the new board. I took some canned air, blew mine out, cleaned them up pretty good and stuff before I put them in. Had some ashes and stuff like that down in my controller and everything, so I just took the opportunity again to clean it up. So here I'm just kind of test fitting everything back in there, and definitely do the antenna first, then put the PCB on there with the gimbals and stuff. And this is where it was a little finicky, and it took a little bit of it was a little frustration of about 5 to 10 minutes to try to get everything lined up good to work. I've seen some people just drop this right in, but that scroll wheel right there was actually giving me, like I said, a lot of problems. So focus on getting that in first, and then kind of just maneuver things around a little bit, and you'll be able to move the gimbals to get the wiggle those into place, and they'll literally drop right into place. Then you can work on your rocker switches, and you'll see that all your holes will eventually line up. Don't forget to pull your connector out there like I did, and also your speaker. Make sure you have your SD card plugged back in. You can see that gap right there that I was getting. So that's the part that you don't want to have. So that's why it took a little bit more time to fuss around with and get that working. So I tried putting the gimbals on the board. I tried putting the gimbals in first, and they were not my problem. It was that scroll wheel the entire time that was giving me fits. But eventually, after enough finagling and wiggling around, I was able to get it, and you know, everything worked out fine. So here you can see we got it all back together, got the screws all in, everything all plugged up, just double checking, making sure that everything was working. At this point, you can do a power on to make sure that everything works. Once you put your battery back in, you do got to change the dual lock and stuff like that. So the back case here, this is where I got mounting of that. You just take off the mounting tape and kind of stick it on there in the center. I just took my old soldering iron and just soldered out a hole here, so that way I could just snake the wire right through. No big deal. It all gets covered up anyway and looks nice and clean. So once I cut that open, then I just came in with like hobby knife, or you can use a Dremel or something like that, and just kind of clean up that plastic a little bit if you're worried about that cable getting damaged at all. But real simple. I know this probably triggers a lot of you using a soldering iron to melt plastic, but it's very, very effective. So that's it, guys. That was the short version of how you get this done. Super simple upgrade, little finicky, priced right, I believe, for what we are getting or what we're about to get, and who knows what we're going to get in the future. Trappy's really been flying planes and wings a lot lately, if you pay attention to any of the lounge episodes. So I don't know if I know he's really testing my Wi-Fi over Mavlink, and I'm not into planes and stuff like that right now, but you know, who's to say down the road when the spring comes around, or even if I get bored in the middle of winter, which is usually what happens. I get bored in the middle of winter and I decide to build a plane. Dumb, because it's freezing out, and you really have to put a lot of work into getting a plane flying correctly for the first few times. So who knows what happens. So if you got any questions, guys, let me know. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll talk to you later.